Thanks for the invite, Mayor Foon, and thanks to Graham from the council for spending the day with me, showing me around all the different facilities around Gisborne, and to Brent and Thomas from Sport Gisborne. It's been a really good day. This isn't a photo of Gisborne, but this could be a photo of any sports field around New Zealand any night of the week. And I always get inspired when I look at that photo because there's a community somewhere under lights, learning skills, recreating with each other, engaging with people that they wouldn't normally engage with, but through sport it breaks down all these barriers. And it's such a powerful mode for us as communities to get involved in. And this could be rugby, this could be tennis, it could be netball, a wide variety of activities for any age or stage in life. And then today we had a look around a number of your facilities in Gisborne. I got the grand tour, which was fantastic, and we had a look at some proposals around some of these places, which was fantastic. I had a look at the water sport area, and I need to be really careful what I say because I've only been in your community for a day, but I think clearly one of your strengths is your water-based activities, your surfing, your wakarama, your legacy of kayaking through Alan Thompson and other people, and obviously rowing. Looked at where the wakarama was stored or not stored, as the case may be. Your beautiful walkway along the front. Had a look at the Olympic pool. I've a bit of a background in pool areas. And then I was more interested in what most people do when they go to the pool. And that's they go into this water and they splash around with their kids or their grandparents, go down the water slide, jump, probably do bombs off the diving board. We used to get kicked out for doing bombs off the diving board when I was a kid, but I think you're allowed to do it these days. But that's where 90% of your people will recreate and use your aquatic centre. Had a look at this part here. I think it's called the Oval from memory. 3 rugby club rooms on one park. This isn't just unique to Gisborne. This is sport in New Zealand, where over a period of time we've generated club rooms next to each other and the conquest of competition and rivalry, possibly at the expense of efficiency. And we're left with a legacy of these 1940s, 1950s club rooms. And at some stage, clubs fall over as the demographics change. And these assets are generally offered back to the council as assets. And they're another liability for the council to look at. And I'm certainly not getting at old boys marriage rugby, by the way. It's just what was up there at that stage. The council got a discount, a bulk discount on this coloured paint. That's everywhere on all the change rooms around Gisborne. But it was good to see there was no graffiti on the walls and stuff. I like that. I looked at the netball centre, and Graham told me a few stories about how he's trying to help maintain that facility for use. Netball's one of our biggest participating sports in New Zealand, and it's often underrepresented in funding and support. Had a look at the squash courts and how over time people are reusing some of that space for other things, so they're looking at those sorts of options. Couldn't quite get in, but through the barbed wire I saw what Thomas Edge said was probably the best football ground in Gisborne. In New Zealand, and could host the Phoenix at some stage. But Thomas, clearly from a football background, so I had to chuckle. But yeah, that brings me to my role really. And in Sport New Zealand, I'm based in Christchurch, but work for a government agency in Wellington. And my role was to create a framework of what the future should look like for sport and recreation facilities in New Zealand. And the mantra that I've come out with over the last couple of years we've been doing this work is, as a country, we need to be big enough to realise we are small. And what I mean by that is we are the population of Melbourne, whereas we want 10 times as many high-class facilities around New Zealand to what Melbourne has, and we simply can't afford that. So we've been working on a series of projects to look at how we can create the best value for sporting facilities around New Zealand. And I'll just whip through some slides quickly to look at some of the challenges that we face as a wider sector. There is not really a planned approach to how we've developed facilities over time. It's really been based on individual geographical areas developing facilities and not considering the greater good. And that started in, many years ago when there were hundreds of local authorities in New Zealand. When they were amalgamated in '89, often councils came together, and there were 5 or 6 smaller councils that came together, and they had 5 or 6 of the same assets, and they've maintained them over time, and it's cost them a lot of money. So that's the duplication. There are many facilities in New Zealand that are either under-specified, so are no use for anyone, or over-specified. So a small town said it will host the World Championships in their sport every 3rd year, and they need this level of facility. My argument would be that's the level they want, but what is the community need, and how do we provide for the 99% of the users, which are the people that actually reside in that community. And then over a period of time, when we've seen a number of our traditional sports decline in participation, the sustainability of their operating models comes into question. So if you look at a number of sports in New Zealand where there is a slow decline in participation, for example in bowls or golf or some of these activities, it costs a lot of money to maintain these things, and they've got less and less members to do it. So more and more pressure comes on third-party funders to prop that up. And the question as a community you need to make over these deliberations for your LTP is what should you support and what you should not. A number of these assets have also been neglected over time, so there's a lot of deferred maintenance on assets around the country. We have an ageing network of facilities in New Zealand generally. So for example, there are over 65% of indoor courts in New Zealand are over 45 years old, so they're coming to the end of their useful life. And I mentioned to someone today, it's what I call a ticking time bomb. Because in a few years' time, everyone's going to be wanting to replace their facilities, and there's a massive amount of capital expenditure required. Also, you may have noticed, I live in a rural town, and we've had a lot of immigrants come in from the UK and Auckland, so both from overseas, and they've really lifted up the expectations of what they want in terms of our facilities and our community. So we've always had an outdoor pool as a small community. It's 25 yards actually, it was built in 1927, and it's really puckarooed, but it's fine, kids love it, and it costs hardly anything to run. But some of these people now want a covered pool, and they want to swim all year round. And I say, well, swimming is, you do it when it's sunny and it's nice, and like when I was a kid, you just swam in the summer and you played rugby or soccer or hockey or netball in the winter. Why do we have to do all these things all the time? But it's that kind of increasing specification and expectation from people is driving things up. And some of that we have to realise we're no longer in the golden era and all this sort of stuff. And I didn't really walk to school with bare feet, but it's just that sort of stuff really raises the bar for what councils and other funders have to fund on an ongoing basis. And then in New Zealand, in a lot of areas, and I'm not quite sure about whether it's in Gisborne, but the semi-professional environment of sport has ramped up the requirements around drug testing rooms and media rooms and all those types of things, which add an additional burden to the asset owner. So all those challenges led us to creating our vision is what we want, a world-leading network of sporting facilities that enables, so provides the opportunity for, but also inspires people to participate. So we know that if people have good quality facilities, well maintained, well looked after, and fit for purpose, then people will participate in their activities. When they're run down, poorly managed, not open in the right hours for your customer, then they won't be used. It's pretty common sense, but that's kind of our overarching goal. And then within the framework, which is this sort of little, I've got a few of these up front if anyone would like to take one home, but we've got sort of 6 desired future, what I call desired states or principles. Firstly, it's meeting an identified need. And what I mean by that is quite often in New Zealand, we develop things based on wants rather than needs, and we don't do a clear business case to determine what the community actually needs. We're passionate people in the sporting sector, and often we leave our corporate head off at the door when we walk into our sports club, and we rule everything from our heart. And I'm involved in a lot of sports as a volunteer parent and stuff, and we're always wanting lots of stuff, but you know what we need in our junior rugby club? We need a rugby ground to play on and good, keen parents to coach. Everything else around the edges, it's superfluous really, because the kids, that's what they want. They want to get muddy when it's muddy, and they want to run around when it's dry, and they want to learn some skills so they can play next year and have a good time. Everything else, and none of that requires a facility really. So it's quite interesting. Partnering and collaboration is the second of our principles, and we believe that, for example, the Ministry of Education has a huge role to play, and when we are developing new facilities, they should be on or adjacent to school land. And I'm referring to things like indoor courts and swimming pools and things like that, where you have people that will use it during the day, and then you have community, etc., that will use it at night. And there's some really good examples in New Zealand where this happens. In my hometown of Christchurch, Graham Condon Leisure Centre on Papanui High School land. So the council and the school worked together, created a pool, an additional court to complement the court the school had. 900,000 users go through that facility a year now. Sure, some of that's probably EQ displacement, earthquake displacement, but it's just a really efficient model. Facilities need to be future-proofed, and what I mean by that is when they are being developed, they shouldn't be specialised so much that when things change, when trends change, they can't be used for anything else. So we need to be really careful that we don't drive up a cul-de-sac that's a dead end, and all of a sudden you've got a massive liability in your community. Integration is about sports clubs and others working together to develop facilities. I don't think there should be many new assets built that aren't multi-use, really. We need to look at getting clubs and other parts of the community to work together. So, for example, there are many multi-use facilities now where medical centres are being developed next to sport and recreation centres with physio clinics. There are other examples where libraries are being placed next to sport and rec centres. Bring all the people together and get those synergies and efficiencies. Sustainability, not only environmental sustainability, but these things need to be affordable. They need to be affordable to build, but then over the whole cost of their life. An example of that is when you build an aquatic centre, the rule of thumb in New Zealand is generally 20% of your cost is your capital, 80% of your cost is your running costs over the next 50 years of that facility. So there have been some numbers bandied about around your community, but if we said your asset was going to be a $20 million build, then you need to think, how are we going to fund the $80 million over the next 50 years? And surely, yeah, of course, people pay to get in, but they won't pay the full $80 million. There's a massive shortfall. So you need to think about the whole of life costs. And accessibility is our last key principle or desired future state. So there are places in New Zealand where we have large portions of the population that don't want to participate in sport and recreation, when males are participating. So there are swimming classes for Muslim-only swimming classes in parts of Auckland and in Wellington, etc., where the pool provider has curtains, they shut off the pool, and there's women-only lifeguards, and these women can participate and recreate, and one of the only things they can do. And I think as a sector we should be really proud that we're actually providing opportunities for those women to do that, because recreation and sport is a right of ours, really. We can't just go through life without being able to express ourselves through these things. How long am I for time anyway?
Good to go, 4 minutes.
4 minutes to go. Okay. I'm just going to whip through to affordable sports centres. So I live in this facility in Christchurch, and it's a one-court basketball court with a high-performance training centre, etc., and it costs $3.6 million to build. And I believe that we need to, when we're looking at sports facilities, any type, we need function over form. Any architects in the room? Good. Don't employ an architect first. Employ an architect last. Okay. Get the operators and the users to understand what you need first, and then get it costed, and then get an architect to develop your detailed design. Don't do it the other way around, unless the architect's from the sport and rec sector, because it will cost you way too much money. And I've seen too many projects around New Zealand and the world where we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on designs that are no use and are not functional. So this is a pool that was built for $16 million. This is a pool that was built for $3.5 million. Does anyone see the difference? I'll just go back. There's not a lot of difference. Okay, my point is, you need to understand what your community can afford, and you can build something cheap, but you will get cheap, and you will get issues and problems. You can spend a lot of money, and you will get a high-spec facility, but it may be more than what you need. So you need to build facilities which are right for your community, and not right for another community that lives down the road. I just want to quickly show you, this one here. In the UK, they've developed templated designs for sports facilities, okay? Because what they've seen is everyone who's developing a new sports centre develops their own, and they start with a blank piece of paper. And they don't learn from the mistakes of others. So they've developed a templated model, and this could be developed in Gisborne, it could be developed in Invercargill, it could be developed in Whangarei. The issue, and you just have a facade that represents your community. And this is all based on best practice. They know exactly how many people come through the door to these facilities, they know how many changing rooms they need, all these types of things. And what they've managed to do by developing a templated model like this is save 30% of the capital costs of these facilities, 30% of the ongoing operating costs, and still drive up participation. So I just wanted to give you that as an example. And I just wanted to give you a whole of life cost example. So if you develop a pool and an indoor court together, you only need one receptionist at the front door. If you develop them separately on two different reserves, you need one at each reserve. The saving of combining them over 25 years, I think, did I say 25? Yeah. $2.6 million, which is actually about what it costs to build an indoor court, if you did it the right way. So you need to be quite smart in how you do some of these things. I just wanted to quickly show you this in a minute. This is a sports domain. There's a club rooms there. There's a ablution block there. There's an indoor court there. There's a rugby club there. There's a squash club there. There's no way they could work with a rugby club. Ablution block there. There's a bowling club there. There's a sheep breeders association there. There is a pool there. There's a netball and tennis club there. Okay, you've probably got these types of issues and domains in your area. If not, it'll be, was it Childers Road?
Yeah.
Everything's kind of spread out. So there are opportunities going forward to start looking at more integrated models.